I've been on the job here about 3 weeks. I've spent 25 years with the New Orleans Police Department. One thing though, if a hurricane comes here, I'm gone. I'm out of here. But seriously, thank you for coming.
My name is Seema Singh, and I'm the Constable Representative for the 3rd District. And then, if you're okay answering questions,
Sure.
I would love for...
I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Sure, great question. So she asked about some of the allegations of racism within the Knox Police Department. So there's several things that we're doing about, to deal with that right now. We're going to come in and do actually individual focus groups with different groups within the organization to really assess the culture of the police department, the group called ABLE, Active Bystandership for Law Enforcement. But what it does is it teaches officers how to intervene and stop that type of behavior and really root it out. And what we really want to do is to create an environment where that type of behavior has nowhere to thrive anymore. I am very impressed with this police department.
Can you clarify your intent on when the law becomes effective tomorrow about the homeless?
Sure. So I put out an internal directive already that we will not be, you're talking about the felony law? So that we will not be enforcing that felony law without my permission.
So does the legislation give you that option?
So as the chief of police, I could say what our personnel do and not do. Now I'm not saying there will not ever be a time and a place where we won't use that law, but if we do, it needs to be very, very deliberate and very, very considered. Sure.
Thank you. There have been several high-profile incidents over the past year of KPD officers driving recklessly without employing lights and sirens, including one incident that ended in the death of an innocent civilian, Mauricio Luna. Should officers be allowed to drive their vehicles above the speed limit, including running through traffic lights without licensed sirens? And if not, what should be the penalty when they violate this policy?
So we have rules and regulations on what the officers could do when they go on those calls, and I believe that the KPD rules and regulations require them to have lights and sirens on. So if they break those policies, then they should face disciplinary action in accordance with the rules and regulations of the organization.
Okay.
Anybody else?
One more.
So you asked about the officers being allowed to wear the beards. If I got rid of the beards, we lose cops to other areas. So what we're doing is I have asked our supervisors to make sure that the beards are trimmed according to the rules of the department. Look, I love to get rid of them, but at the end of the day, if I did, we might really lose some really good police officers. We need them here. As long as they look professional, I don't have a problem with the facial hair.
City Council voted to allocate almost $500,000 to start up a new violence intervention and prevention street outreach program, Turn Up Knox. And just wanting to understand what the relationship is and roles are going to be between the police department and this new.
Sure. So that's a kind of a very complex question for this environment here, but I will tell you that those relationships are very important, right? So I really believe in those characteristic models.
I think having a relationship with law enforcement is key, right? And a lot of times, I feel like society forces a lot of people within our community to have this pushback against law enforcement. And so I think over probably the next 2 or 3 months, I myself and LaKenya Middlebrook will be working close and personal with KPD chief and whoever he decides to bring on board within the program to make sure that this program isn't effective. It's different. It's something that we're going to be learning as we go. So yeah, we are working close. We will be working close with KPD, kind of being that forefront, building that mistrust with the communities, so that program can be effective as possible. What is the policy when it comes to policing your own community? I'm from New Jersey, and my neighbor was a police officer.
Yeah.
He policed in his community, and I don't see that a lot here.
I would love to see more police officers that live in Knoxville, in the city itself. In those neighborhoods, and for whatever reason, could be. I'm struggling to find a home as well. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But there's absolutely no policy that prohibits that. But what we do, and I believe is really important, I was excited to see here, is we do deploy geographically. So we have the same officers working in the same areas over and over again. Some of the other things that we could do, I think that's going to be a little more challenging, but it's probably going to bear more fruit, is actually those close partnerships with the school system. And starting working with kids from 9th grade on up. Well, we should be trying to have as many positive encounters as we can with kids in our school system. So when they become of age, when they're 18, they can't be a police officer yet, but we could hire them as a cadet, or there's other positions that we could have. When a police officer has an impact on someone's life, they're more likely to want to come and have that same impact on somebody else. Having the police officers in those schools, having positive relationships with kids, being those role models, helping them through problems, as opposed to just being there through negative actions.
I have a question that kind of follows on that. You're talking about having positive experiences with the children in our schools. The shooting of Anthony Thompson Jr. at Austin East by a KPD officer was a traumatic event for the children there. What will KPD do differently next time there's a student that's been in an altercation or is armed in a school? How do you balance fast reaction and student safety?
Sure, that's a great question. So, I'm still reviewing that case. So I'm going to speak on that publicly at some point. I'm just not ready to speak on that at this time. But I promise I will absolutely be speaking about that case publicly at some point.
Well, if I could substitute a different question then. Gun violence in schools is obviously something that people are worried about right now, and the inaction of police in Uvalde is one thing that people are afraid of. Does KPD have a plan for an active shooter, and how is it different than Uvalde's plan?
Sure, our police officers are trained in active shooter situations. The training in law enforcement all across the country is pretty standard. It's the training that we've done since Columbine. I am absolutely confident. It's one of the first things I did in day one is talk to the command staff to see if we were prepared and if we were trained, and we absolutely are. I've already met with the school security chief as well, and I'm very confident in our ability to be able to respond to those incidents.
We started out at the Greyhound Bus Station assisting non-English speaking travelers as they either arrive in Knoxville or pass through. And we helped with tickets and everything from diapers to food, water, etc., to help people get on their way and manage the Greyhound system. Every single night, we've kept records since April. There are very difficult situations due to Greyhound's inability to meet a schedule.
Yes, ma'am.
And people being abandoned overnight. Could the Knoxville Police Department, as an organization, compel Greyhound to do more to protect their passengers?
I don't think so.
So the fact that the city has nothing to say about this, and doesn't even apparently care to sit down with Greyhound, is just kind of shocking, really, to me, because this does involve the city. It involves all of us.
Can you talk about the co-responder model and kind of places you see in Knoxville policing?
So I'm actually meeting with the co-responder team tomorrow to learn really more about what they do. I've not really had a chance to sit down with them yet. I'm a big proponent of co-responder model. I was so excited to see that we had a co-responder model here. I don't want to speak too much about it. Like I said, I'm actually meeting with them, tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I would love to see it expand. But like I said, I'm not really set. It'd be a little premature.
Can I express some of my concerns? I was waiting until everybody was through.
Absolutely.
Real quick. I just wanted publicly, my interest is the least amongst us. I'm going to get political because I'm political. The Supreme Court in the state has put rules into effect that I think is going to affect the relationship with the police department and the community. And this is where I get concerned. 287G, don't know what's going to go with LGBT rights. So that's something that we need to communicate with, giving a homeless person a felony and taking away their right to vote. And these are going to be some of our challenges.
I issued instructions to the police department that we would not be enforcing that felony homeless law without my permission. So I'm not saying that there would never be a time when we would use it. I really don't like to make those blanket statements, but I'm basically saying, we're not really going to use it unless there's really rare circumstances.
Don't you think your officers are still going to use it as a threat if you don't explicitly say you're not going to enforce it? They're just going to tell homeless people that they're going to get a felony even though you wouldn't approve it.
Well, look, I don't want to go there.
Thank you so much. And there are a lot of people who are waiting to see you, talk to you.
Very quick, do you know the words to Rocky Top yet?
No comment.
Yeah, it is.
I'm gonna go ahead and pleasure to meet. If I can ever do anything for you, let me know.
Absolutely, definitely.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah.
Just two quick follow-ups.
I'm not doing any media or anything like that.
I'm gonna stick to that.
I got you, but I mean, I'm not doing any like camera media.
Okay, so you don't want to answer your question?
I'll be happy to answer questions with you, but you're gonna walk right over here. Like I said, if you want to get
I always record my interactions 5 days a week.
well, I mean, I'm just telling you, you know, that's
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and ask the questions. You can do whatever you want. So I wanted to
walk right over here.
That's cool. So I wanted to follow up with.
So look, I mean, I'm really trying to be very respectful with you.
I appreciate that.
And
You're a
I'm just-
public servant. You work for the city.
Sure.
It's a public
But
event.
if
I
you-
always record my interactions with public officials.
If you would like to do a media interview with me, you can
I don't.
get in
I
touch
just
with
want to
us.
ask you two quick questions related to stuff you talked about.
Pleasure to meet you.
That was very. I think you're walking off very rude. That's why I didn't shake your hand. I'm sorry they did it this way, sir.
A lot of negative followers.
No education. See, and those are